Okay guys, I just saw your comments today on the video that I posted when I first unloaded this machine here from the trailer. This is the machine with the popping sound. So I'm going to get right into the video here and we are going to find out what is wrong with this machine. By the way, some of you guys know exactly what's wrong with this machine. Some of you guys commented properly. All right, here we go. Okay guys, I've got the machine here in the shop. Let's take the hood off and let's find out why this engine is popping. By the way, this is the machine you saw in the previous video, and this is the one that I picked up at a customer's place. It ran what it seemed to be running good, and then when I went to take it off the trailer, it's just popping and not starting properly. So I'll just spin it over here so you can hear it again. That's what it's doing. Okay, let's get that hood off. It makes it easier to work on them. So I want to turn it over again just to see which side it's popping from. It seems like it's popping through the intake. So at this point, because there's so much dirt and hay underneath the cover, I'm just going to take off the whole cover and then I will start by removing the valve covers. This one here stripped in the engine. If this happens to grab vice grips and clip on the nut on the other side. Okay, so the nut was turning on this side and I was able to remove it. I'll have to tack weld it on next time. And here's the engine. It is dirty like hell. It was never cleaned. And when you have a lot of dirt like this, like right here, that makes it harder for your engine to cool down. What a mess. So what I think's going on with this machine is a valve problem. So I'm going to start by getting the two overhead valve covers off first. Now you want to put a rag under there because oil will come out. Okay, so everything seems intact on this side. The push rods are there. Valves are opening and closing. The lash is pretty tight here, almost none. And the lash is a bit too large on this one. Too much space between the rocker arm and the valve stem. So I don't see anything broken on this side, so I will go and remove the cover on the other side of the engine. Okay, and I do see a problem over here. Okay, here's the culprit right here on the left hand side. You can see a push rod is bent. Now what's concerning me is why did it bend? It could just be wear and tear, or it could be something bigger going on in the engine. And after what I told you guys yesterday about explaining to the customer that his machine does not start and run properly now that it's off the trailer, I at least have some evidence here to show him. And this would never have been caused by transporting it in a trailer. And the valve lash is a bit loose on this one, and this one obviously does nothing. It's not opening or closing this valve. And again, on the other side, the push rods are good. All I have to do is adjust the valve lash on these, and everything's good on this side over here. And I'll put a new gasket here as well. Okay guys, I found another rod. This is the rod that's made of steel, not the aluminum one. The aluminum rod is the top one. And here's the part number if you need the gasket, from Briggs & Stratton, 690971. And the push rod made of steel is part number 690-981, superseded to 597-785. So before I get started here, I'm just going to check these small bolts here. They tend to get loose sometimes. And now I'm just going to insert the rod. Now what you want to do is get the rod in its proper place on the inside of the engine like this. It's kind of hard to see, but you'll see a spot for the rod to go in. You have to get it into that spot. If not, the rod will not be seated correctly and it will not move up and down to move the rocker arm. So I've got the rod in there, and now what I'll do is push on the valve. So what I'll do, because it's a bit tight to get it in there, is loosen this here. Now you want to get the rod through here and then put this back. You want this smooth side here to face the rod. So I've taken the plugs out to make it easier to turn the valves. And what I will do is when one valve is open, I will set the lash on the other. So even the top one's got a crazy amount of lash here. It must be like 40 thousandths of an inch when it should only be 4 thousandths between the valve stem and the rocker arm. I'm going to adjust the bottom valve first. I've got the top one in the open position, so I've turned the engine until the rocker arm is pushing on that one. And basically all I want is about 4 thousandths of an inch of valve lash. Once you get that proper valve lash, then you tighten up the nut here while you hold the torque screw. And I am using a 13mm wrench today. So that's a bit much lash there. So in that case, I'm just going to turn in the torque screw just a bit. It's under pressure here with the nut. I did not tighten up the nut fully in case I needed to do this. Now I've got my feeler gauge that I will run right through here, and it's still a bit loose in there. I've got it set pretty good, so now I'm going to tighten up this nut. And you don't want the Torx thing to move. And I always rotate the engine once or twice and check the lash again. And that's perfect. So now I'm going to open up this one, meaning it will be in the down position, and then I can adjust this one here. It's extremely loose. Once you have this nut loose, you can turn the torque screw quite easily with the Torx bit. Now you got to put your ratchet in reverse so that the Torx bit does not undo itself. Perfect. Let's turn it a few revolutions. Perfect. Okay, everything looks good here. No dirt in here. That engine was extremely dirty. So I'm kind of checking it twice for dirt. Probably the best thing is to just air hose your machine, the engine, before tearing it apart. That's my bad. But this is all nice and clean. I've got my valve cover here all cleaned up as well. The gasket is still good, but I will add a bit of gasket sealer on it. And I'm putting some Honda Bond gasket maker on here. It's pretty well the best stuff. Now, you don't really have to put any gasket sealer on your valve covers, but I do just for added protection. All you got to do is put a thin film if you already have a gasket. Now, some of these engines here come without a gasket now. So what I do is I clean off the old stuff and I put a new gasket on. Now right here, when I put this cover back on, I want to connect the impulse line into the fuel pump here. Extremely important to have that there. Okay, so I'll just start the bolt with the impact slowly here. And I'll just come in and finish them off by hand manually. You don't need to put these too tight, but you want them fairly snug. Okay, all's good on this side. Okay, on this side here, all I need to do is adjust the valves. First of all, I want to clean all the gasket maker that's left over from the previous shop. I'm actually pointing the grinder strategically so that it blows the dirt away from the cylinder. And I'll just clean everything with brake cleaner here. Okay, I've got the top one closed, bottom one open. Pushed in means open, up means closed. I will try my 4 thousandths feeler gauge. Okay, that one's perfect in there. And now let's open this one. And this one's actually pretty tight, meaning that the lash is not big enough, so it's smaller than 4 thousandths of an inch. So when I turn out the torque screw, guys, I'm actually allowing the lash to become bigger between the valve stem and the rocker arm right here. And when I turn in the screw, I'm actually making the distance or the lash smaller between the valve stem and the rocker arm. I need more space, so I backed off, turned it out. I'll try my feeler gauge, still a bit tight. And now we're perfect. So I'll try to keep it in that position there. And we'll try the lash again here. Okay, the lash is a bit too big now. So I will turn the screw in, even though I've tightened up the nut partially. Sometimes that's how I do most of my adjusting, is by having the nut just snugly tightened up to allow me to be able to move the torque screw back and forth. Okay, we're doing pretty good here, just a small adjustment. And now I'll tighten up the torque screw, because I don't think I will have to move it again. And I might as well tighten up this one even though the lash was good. Okay, let's check the lash here again. And it is perfect, perfect. Let's turn the engine again a few times. And we are good. You want it to go in there to be snug, but not loose and not too tight. Perfect. And now I've got my gasket and my valve cover and my Honda bond. I'm just going to do what I did on the cover on the other side previously, and then I'll come back and we'll try out this engine. Okay, everything's put back together. I cleaned out the intake here. I'm a bit nervous here because I kind of want this thing to work, to run properly, but you just never know. All right, guys, I've got the parking brake on. Let's try it. You know what? I don't have the spark plugs in. That kind of happens when you're in a busy shop, guys. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done this before. I'm going to put the plugs in and let's try it out after that. Okay, guys, 2 plugs are in. Okay, let's see what happens. That's all it was, guys. What a relief. So I don't run the engines without the covers for too long because they can't cool down properly. So what a relief, guys. At least I know the engine will run. This was not an issue. That was my fault by transporting it. However, I should clean up all this crud here before putting this engine back together. Now, this machine originally came in the shop for other issues, and the other issues are that sometimes the PTO clutch disengages and re-engages. So that's a whole matter for another video. If you guys want to see that, just let me know. I have looked at the wire that goes from the PTO clutch underneath, and it is not cracked. So I'm thinking it could be the whole PTO clutch itself that's going bad, or it could be the PTO switch up here. Not quite sure yet. And here's the nut that was spinning earlier when I was removing the cover, so I just tagged the nut back on to that base. Anyway, I'm pretty happy that it is running because it is one less issue to deal with the customer and trying to explain to him. There is a video here. If he wants to see it, I will send him the link to this video here. So you can always document your repairs sometimes if you have customers that you're not sure if they're going to be questioning your diagnosis. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please comment below and let me know what you think. Have a good day.